Through my work as a sobriety coach, I talk to people about false beliefs that they have about alcohol, about the benefits they think that it brings into their life, but actually it doesn't. All it does is take away. And I hear a lot of false beliefs about sobriety, often from people who still drink. And I want to share with you 7 myths about sobriety today that hopefully is going to help you understand how good a sober life can be. These myths I hear time and time again, although the last one you may not have considered, so make sure you stick around till number 7. And while you're here, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Just hit the red subscribe button and you'll get notified every time there's a new video. There's new videos every Tuesday and every Thursday, so make sure you don't miss out. And also, check out the awesome event that I announced only last week. It's a live event in 2022. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers. You can book your tickets now. There's a link in the description of this video. I would love you to be there. It would be absolutely amazing. It's going to be a very, very special day. Now let's get into those 7 myths about sobriety. The first myth is that life must be boring if you're sober. Now I used to think this. I was drinking 2 or 3 bottles of red wine every single day and I absolutely thought that sober people were boring. I can remember taking the mickey out of a couple of guys who worked for me and didn't drink at our work Christmas party. Now I look back on that and I can see that actually I was the boring one. I was the one who was repeating myself, talking loudly, probably spraying spit in people's faces and not listening to what they were saying because I was so drunk. If you've had the opportunity to observe people who've been drinking when you're alcohol free, notice how boring they really are, because they absolutely are. It's the drunk people that are boring. When we don't drink, we discover what really lights us up in life. The hobbies, the activities that bring us complete joy. Life becomes more fun than ever. It's absolutely the opposite of boring. And this is a false belief that can keep people stuck. They think without alcohol they won't have fun. But are they really having fun in their life with alcohol anyway? Probably not. They're just keeping themselves stuck. They're blocking themselves from ever enjoying life and truly feeling fulfilled. The second myth about being sober is that you have to spend your life in recovery. This is a term used by Alcoholics Anonymous, and they do tell their members that they have to be in recovery forever. I don't buy into that way of thinking. For me, being alcohol free is a lifestyle choice. A bit like somebody who's a vegan. Vegans embrace their new lifestyle. You don't see them sat in the corner spending their life in recovery from meat and dairy products. They're passionate about it. They're part of the vegan community. They wear it with pride. They're loud and proud. And that's how I am with sobriety. It's a lifestyle choice. It's my passion. It doesn't define me as a person, but it's definitely part of who I am. And I think that's how we should all view sobriety. It should be something that we do for us, not for anybody else. And we definitely don't spend our lifetime in recovery. We spend it in discovery. Discovering amazing things about ourselves, amazing things about the world. For me, there's been no recovery. Recovery is for people who are sick or injured and not the best version of themselves. Yet since I've quit drinking, I've become the best version of myself that I've seen so far in my life. That's not recovery. As I say, it's discovery. The third myth about sobriety is that you'll lose all your friends if you stop drinking. Now sure, if you've got some friends where the relationship is glued together by alcohol and it's the only thing that holds the relationship together, then maybe you will drift apart. And actually I don't think that's a bad thing. That happened for me with 1 or 2 people. But other than that, since I quit drinking, I've made more friends than ever. The sober community is one of the most wonderful communities of people I've ever had the pleasure to be part of. And I've made so many new connections and so many new friends. And the best thing is that because alcohol is not involved, We're able to talk at a deeper level. We have a better level of connection. People talk about emotions and feelings, and they connect on a whole new level, something that I'd never experienced before. When our friends are just all about drinking, we just talk rubbish. It's all superficial. There's very little meaningful conversation. Without alcohol, everything changes. Our relationships are deeper, our relationships are better. Believe me, you'll make more friends. And I've taken up new hobbies since I quit drinking. For example, fitness boot camps. Now, people at those boot camps, they do drink, but alcohol is not at the centre of the show. So I've also made new friends who do drink, but alcohol's nothing to do with our relationship. The relationship is based on something else. But because I'm not drinking, I'm getting myself out there and getting involved in other things. The fourth myth about sobriety is that you can't go to places where you'll be around alcohol. Now, at the start, after you quit, I don't recommend going to anywhere where you feel like you might be tempted to drink. And if that means not going to the pub or not going to restaurants or places where there might be temptation, then you're wise to stay away. But over time, we grow, we become more resilient, and it really doesn't bother us any longer. And again, I'm going to mention vegans. A vegan might go to a restaurant and the people around them might be eating steak, but it doesn't really bother them. It doesn't trigger them. And over time, that's how it becomes without alcohol. And in fact, it frustrates me when I go out to a restaurant and somebody says to me, "Do you mind if I drink?" Of course I don't mind. And I always say to them, if I was vegan, I wouldn't mind if you had a burger. It wouldn't bother me. It doesn't bother me. Sure, it did at the start, and I took steps to keep myself safe. But these days, it just doesn't matter. And in fact, I just view it with curiosity. When I see people drinking, I just notice. I notice how they're behaving. I notice how their behaviour changes. I notice how much they drink. Sure, you might call that judgmental, but I simply observe. I'm simply curious. Sometimes I do judge when their behaviour gets out of control, or they do or say something stupid. I realise that that's the effect the alcohol's having, and I feel grateful that I don't drink any longer. The fifth myth about sobriety is that if you've become sober, you must be an alcoholic. Now, sure, some people are addicted to alcohol, and that's okay. We've changed our relationship. The fact you're watching this video tells me that you're working on that. Does it mean you're an alcoholic? Well, actually, I think alcoholic is on a spectrum, and if you take the term alcoholic, surely it can apply to just about anybody who can't live without alcohol in their life. And I often ask people who consider themselves moderate or once a week drinkers whether they could live without alcohol, and nearly always they say, no, I have to have my once a week bottle of wine or my once a night glass of wine. No way could I live without it. And that says to me that they're reliant on it, they're dependent on it. So to some degree, they must be on that spectrum of being an alcoholic. So the first point around that is actually most people who can't say that they would live a life without alcohol are on the spectrum of being an alcoholic. Now, secondly, we don't have to live our life with any type of label. We can choose our own label. I firmly believe that labels belong on jars, not on people. Yes, at times labels can be useful, but we can select the ones that we apply to ourselves. And for me, I'm happily alcohol free. I'm Simon and I don't drink. And I think that's about all the labels that I need for myself. Some people do refer to me as an alcoholic from time to time, and I simply explain to them that actually I think most people are on that spectrum of not being able to live a life without alcohol. The sixth myth about sobriety is that sober people must be thinking about drinking all the time. They must be resisting and using bucket loads of willpower. It's not true. Sure, at the beginning and that period where we're working on our sobriety and moving into an alcohol-free lifestyle, we can be thinking about alcohol a lot. When I first quit, I was experiencing cravings every few minutes, and it was really challenging. I had to dig my heels in, and I had to find an inner strength to get through that tough period. But as the days and the weeks went by, it got easier and easier. The cravings came less often, and for every craving that I managed to stick with it and come out the other side, I took away some of the power. And every time I took away some of the power, the next craving was nowhere near as strong. Now, we need to give ourselves the opportunity to see that we can do it. If we give in to every craving, then we're never going to get anywhere. But with every craving we sit through, it gets easier. And after a few months, I really wasn't thinking about alcohol very much at all. Maybe once or twice a week. After 6 months, 8 months, I was barely thinking about alcohol ever. And now, around 3 years alcohol free, the only time I think about alcohol is through my work as a sobriety coach. I certainly don't ever have a temptation to drink it. And the final myth about sobriety is that your life won't be the same if you stop drinking. Well, that's actually true. Your life won't be the same if you stop drinking, and it can hold people back from making the change. Humans like certainty. When we're faced with uncertainty and big change, we can fear it and we can keep ourselves protected by carrying on with the same old behaviours, even if they bring about negative consequences. Don't do that. Push yourself outside your comfort zone. You will find that your life does change. It changes in so many amazing ways that you've probably never imagined. When we stay stuck in the cycle of alcohol addiction, we've normally got anxiety, depression, heightened stress, and we're generally feeling unfulfilled in our lives. Alcohol gives us a short amount of relief from that. It's a drug. It has to have some kind of upside, and the upside to the drug is about 30 to 60 minutes of hitting the pause button on our problems and our uncomfortable feelings. After that, they come back with a vengeance. But when you stop drinking or experience an extended period without alcohol, you notice how your anxiety, your stress, your depression, your low moods all fades away. Life becomes calmer, you feel more resilient, you become more grounded, and best of all, you become happier. Without the mask of alcohol, we're forced to face up to the real version of who we are. Now that can be a challenge in itself, and it might mean facing into some difficult things from our past. But you can take it one step at a time. You can be gentle with yourself. You don't need to explore anything challenging at the beginning. You can allow yourself the time until you feel resilient enough to look into anything that you might want to explore. But best of all is that without alcohol in our lives, we absolutely change. We become self-aware. We become able to self-reflect. We start to notice our emotions and feelings. And in many cases, when we're drinking regularly, when we're drinking daily, heavily, we don't feel our feelings. We've become disconnected from our emotions. We're shut down. We start to tune in again. And that does mean that we also need to experience tough feelings, uncomfortable feelings, as well as the good ones. But believe me, this is the path to becoming happier, to becoming whole, and to feeling truly fulfilled in our lives. I hope those 7 myths about sobriety give you some inspiration. Reach out to me, leave a comment and share the myths that you've believed about sobriety or the myths that you've heard about sobriety. I'd love to hear them.